Welcome back guys. Now let's discuss about the topic of reflexes. See, in any reflex arc, there are 5 components present. Okay, what are the 5 components of the reflex arc? Look at this example. When you go and touch something which is very sharp, in this case, he is going and touching something, a sharp object or like a sharp plant, okay, thorns. When he is touching something sharp or hard, what you will do? Immediately you are going to take your hand back. Okay, it's a protective reflex, right? You don't want to harm yourself, so you want to take your hand back. So tell me, is it happening voluntarily or involuntarily? When you go and touch something, immediately you are going to take your hand back. So it happens involuntarily. Okay, so reflexes are involuntary in nature. Okay, they are involuntary. You have to respond quickly. So there is not much time for the cortex to decide. Okay, so decision making happens in the spinal cord itself. Okay, cortex is not involved in the reflexes. So listen what happens. When you go and touch something hard or sharp, first a receptor will be activated. Okay, first who is going to be activated? Receptor is activated. Now from the receptor, see first receptors will be activated, sharp. Now receptors are going to give this information to the sensory neuron. So now the sensory neuron, okay, this first order neuron, it will take the information to the spinal cord. Okay, that's something happened. Now decision making occurs in the spinal cord itself. Now the spinal cord is going to give rise to the motor neuron. See, this yellow color neuron is the efferent or motor neuron. What these motor neurons will do? Motor neurons are going to cause a muscle contraction. When the muscle is contracted, you will take your hand back. You are going to take your hand back. So that's going to be the response. Understood? So now tell me how many components are there in the reflex? There are 5 different components. Right? What are the 5 different components? One is a receptor. There is afferent, nothing but sensory neuron. There is efferent, nothing but motor neuron. Okay, sorry. The afferent has to take the information to where? The afferent has to take the information first to the center. Okay. So what is the center? The center is nothing but spinal cord. Okay, in all these reflexes, the center is the spinal cord. And spinal cord gives rise to the efferents or motor neurons, and what these motor neurons are going to do, they are going to cause a muscle contraction or relaxation, something they are going to do, and that will give the response. So these are the 5 different components of a reflex. Every reflex has these 5 different components. Now let's see some examples of the reflexes. The 2 important reflexes which I want you to know for your exam is stretch reflex and inverse stretch reflex. Okay, stretch reflex, inverse stretch. One is an example of a monosynaptic reflex, other is an example of a disynaptic reflex. Now how to understand this? I hope you have already performed this, guys. You have already done this stretch reflex many times in your life. On your friend you have done this. Okay. Now look at here, this is your thigh. Okay, here is your thigh. This is your thigh muscle, which is the quadriceps muscle. Okay, quadriceps. Now this quadriceps, it is having this tendon. This is the quadriceps tendon. Okay, here is the quadriceps tendon. Now this quadriceps tendon, it is coming and attaching to the patellar bone. It is coming and attaching to the patellar bone. Now the patella on downside, it is having this patellar tendon. Now this patellar tendon, it is coming and attaching with the bone. Okay. Now what we are doing? See, today we are going to take a hammer. Okay, we are taking a hammer. And with this hammer, I am going to come and tap on the patellar tendon. I am going to give a strike on the patellar tendon. So tell me what will happen to the patellar tendon? It is going to move. So that in turn moves the patella downwards. Now whenever the patella is moving downwards, that is going to cause a sudden stretch in the quadriceps muscle. Okay, there is going to be a sudden stretch in the quadriceps muscle is going to be stretched. So now tell me, when a muscle is suddenly stretched, see, I am not doing it voluntarily. Okay, I am just tapping over there. In this person, see, there is a passive stretch. He is not doing it actively. So the external force is causing the sudden stretch in the muscle. So now what happened? So there is going to be sudden increase in length. Okay, there is sudden increase in the length of the muscle. Now I have taught you, whenever there is increase in the length, whenever there is any length changes in the muscle, who is going to detect that? Muscle spindle. Which receptor is going to detect that? Muscle spindles will detect that. Now these muscle spindles immediately detected, okay, there is increase in the length of the muscle. Now they have to report this information to the central nervous system with the help of 1A fiber and secondary fibers. I have told you these are the afferents. They will take the information with the help of 1A fiber and secondary fiber. The information is going where? The information is going into the spinal cord. Okay, the information is going to the spinal cord. Muscle length increase, suddenly, okay, we don't know why, suddenly muscle length increase. This information is going to the spinal cord. See, in the spinal cord, the God designed the spinal cord in such a way, always this 1A fibers and secondary fibers. Okay, actually these are 2 fibers I am showing as one. These 1A fibers and 2 secondary fibers, they will directly come and they will terminate, they are terminating on the lower motor neurons. They are coming and they are terminating where? On the lower motor neurons. Which lower motor neurons? You know, the lower motor neurons are of two types, alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron. This 1A fiber and secondary fiber, they are coming and terminating on the alpha motor neuron as well as gamma motor neuron. So now, this alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron both are activated. Okay, actually two fibers are there, but I am showing as one. Alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron, they are activated. Now you tell me, whenever the alpha motor neuron is activated, whenever the alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron of that particular muscle is activated, and you know what will happen? Whenever the alpha motor neurons are activated, the muscles are going to contract. Okay, alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron, whenever they are activated, the entire muscle is going to contract. Both the extrafusal fibers and intrafusal fibers will contract. So today, what will happen to your this quadriceps muscle? The quadriceps muscle is going to contract. Immediately, it will go back to original position. It will contract. Whenever the muscle is contracting, that's going to cause the jerk. That's going to cause the extension of the knee. So that is the reason why whenever you tap on the patellar tendon, your friend is going to have the jerk. It's called as a patellar jerk. And you know the reason why. Whenever you are tapping on the patellar tendon, you are actually causing the stretch in the quadriceps muscle. So whenever the muscle is stretched, the muscle actually scared. Oh my God, what happened? Why I am getting stretched? Maybe it's a bad stretch. Maybe it will tear the muscle apart. So immediately the muscle will contract back, giving you the jerk. You understand? So this is the stretch reflex. Now in this stretch reflex, how the questions are going to come in your exam? They will ask you, what are the different components? You tell me, what is the stimulus for the stretch reflex? The stimulus for the stretch reflex is sudden increase in length. Sudden increase in length of the muscle. Next, what is the receptor that is getting activated? Who is going to detect this length change? The answer is muscle spindle. And what are the afferents which are involved in this? Okay, what are the afferents? Are sensory neurons which are taking this information to the spinal cord. Afferents are 1A fiber and secondary fiber. And what about the center? Center is spinal cord. Next, what are the efferents? What are the efferents? Efferents are alpha gamma coactivation. Alpha gamma coactivation, that is the alpha motor neuron and the gamma motor neuron, both are activated. And what is the response, guys? The response is muscle contraction. Okay, the muscle is going to be contracted and that's what is going to cause a jerk. So these are the different components of the stretch reflex. So in stretch reflex, the receptor is muscle spindle, afferents are 1A fibers and secondary fibers, center is the spinal cord, alpha gamma coactivation and muscle contraction. Any interneurons are there here? Any interneurons are there? No. Directly the 1A fibers are synapsing onto the alpha motor neuron. There is no interneuron. So that's why it's an example of a monosynaptic. You can see only one synapse. Okay, you can only see one synapse. 1A fiber is terminating onto the alpha motor neuron. There is only one synapse. So that's why it's an example of a monosynaptic reflex. Stretch reflex, example of a monosynaptic reflex. If they ask you, explain me the stretch reflex in a one statement. Okay, in one statement, in a single statement. What is a stretch reflex? When you stretch a muscle, the muscle will contract back. That's it. It's a stretch induced contraction of a muscle. When you stretch a muscle, the muscle will contract back. Okay. So, right, stretch reflex means it's also called as a myotatic reflex. It is a stretch induced contraction. Stretch induced contraction of a muscle is called as a stretch reflex. With this, we are done with the stretch reflex. Now, let's see what exactly is the inverse stretch reflex. Okay, what happens here? And remember, this inverse stretch reflex is an example of a disynaptic reflex. See, today, imagine here is your muscle. Okay, what you are trying to do in front of your friends, you are trying to do the show off. Okay, so you are trying to hold a 20 kg weight, let's say today, or 25 kg without any experience. You are trying to hold a 25 kg weight or 30 kg weights, or let's say some huge weight. You tell me, whenever you are holding weight, what happened to the muscles? The muscles are getting contracted, so much contracted. Now there is so much tension on the tendons. So whenever a muscle is contracting so much, what will happen to the tension pull on the tendons? The tendons are having so much tension now. Okay, there is a pretty good chance they will rupture. The tendon will rupture and you are going to have a biceps tear. Now, what is the stimulus I am giving today? There is increased tension. Where? On tendons, on your muscle tendons. So whenever there is more tension on the tendons, tell me, is it good or bad for you? Definitely it's going to be bad. So in your tendons, there is a receptor present. What is this receptor? This is not muscle spindle. This is your Golgi tendon organ. So it is always detecting the tension on the tendons. It detects how much tension is happening on the tendons. So Today Golgi tendon organ activated. Okay, today there is more tension. This fellow is doing something stupid. He is holding 25 kgs bar. Okay, definitely it's not something good. Now, whenever the Golgi tendon organ is activated from these receptors, this 1B fiber, okay, this 1B fiber is a sensory neuron taking the information where? It is taking the information to spinal cord. It is taking the information where? It is taking the information to the spinal cord. Okay. So, now from here, it is a 1B fiber which is taking the information to where? Taking the information to spinal cord. So, now tell me what is afferent in this pathway? The afferents are primary 1B fibers. It's not 1A fiber. 1A fiber is from the muscle spindle. 1B fiber is from the spinal cord. The Golgi tendon organ. Now, this 1B fiber, where is it going? It is going and synapsing onto a inhibitory interneuron. See, here you can see this blue color neuron. Okay. So, the blue color inhibitory interneuron is activated. So, plus symbol means what? Activation. The inhibitory interneuron is activated, and you always know inhibitory interneuron inhibits the things. So, now this inhibitory interneuron, it is going to inhibit the lower motor neurons. The two types of lower motor neurons are inhibited. That's the alpha motor neuron as well as the gamma motor neuron. Alpha motor neuron and the gamma motor neuron going to this particular muscle, they are inhibited. So, now tell me, even though you are trying to hold a 25 kg weight, what your body is trying to do? Your body is trying to immediately inhibit the alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron. So, you will drop the weights. Okay. So, at least your, okay, everyone was laughing around you, but at least your biceps is saved. There is no biceps tear. So, your body is trying to protect you. Even though you are trying to hold a huge weight, 25 kilos, 30 kilos weight, but your body, what it will do? Immediately, with the help of this inverse stretch reflex, it is going to cause the relaxation of the muscles. So, you are going to drop the weights. So, your muscles are not going to be teared. Your tendons are not going to be teared from the bones. Okay. So, now tell me, the alpha motor neuron and the gamma motor neuron of this particular muscle inhibited. So, without the alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron, do you think the muscle can contract? No, the muscle is not going to be contracting. The muscle cannot contract without alpha and gamma motor neurons. So, right, the receptor in this condition is Golgi tendon organ. It is detecting the tension on the tendons. What are the afferents in this pathway? 1B fiber. With the help of 1B fiber, the information is going to the center. And who is the center? Nothing but spinal cord. The information goes to the spinal cord. And what are the efferents? Efferents is alpha, gamma, inactivation. Alpha, gamma, inactivation. Inhibitory interneurons are going to inhibit the alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron by releasing the GABA. Next, what is the response? Whenever the alpha and gamma are inactivated, the response is going to be muscle relaxation. Muscle relaxation. Okay. So, that is why it is called as the inverse stretch reflex, because in stretch reflex there is muscle contraction. Exactly opposite, here there is muscle relaxation. So, inverse, opposite to stretch reflex. Stretch reflex, in stretch reflex there is contraction. So, here it is opposite, inverse stretch reflex. Here there is relaxation, muscle relaxation is there. Okay. Now, what else you should know for your exam? See, here there are no inhibitory interneurons, so it is a monosynaptic reflex. But here inhibitory interneurons are involved. So, here there is one synapse number 1 and here there is synapse number 2. There are two synapses. So, it is an example of a disynaptic reflex. Okay. And that is the one important MCQ which I want you to know for your exam. Next, here in this topic I have taught you two new receptors I have taught you. What are the two new receptors that you should know for your exams is, one is muscle spindle, already we have discussed, and Golgi tendon organ. These are the two new receptors that I have taught in this topic. Now, these receptors are also called as a proprioceptors. Okay, they are called as what? Proprioceptors. In your exam, they will ask you which of the following is an example of a proprioceptor. Golgi tendon organ, muscle spindles, they are examples of proprioceptors, and that too they are examples of slow adapting receptors. They are not fast adapting, they are slow adapting. I have already explained you what is this concept of slow adapting and fast adapting in the topic of touch receptors, different types of touch receptors, Meissner's, Merkel's, Pacinian and Ruffini's. So, yeah, proprioceptors are examples of the slow adapting type of receptors. They will never undergo adaptation quickly. Okay. So, with this successfully what we have completed the topic of reflexes. The 5 components of a normal reflex we have to know. Remember, always reflexes are involuntary in nature, and the two classical examples for your exam, one is a stretch reflex, inverse stretch reflex, very important topic, especially the muscle spindles. They will always ask you what are muscle spindles. Muscle spindles are the receptors. They will detect what? They will detect the muscle length changes. Okay. With this topic is completed, hope the video is helpful. Thank you.